cherished beat, ही जीवन है, the relentlessly to create cultural capital through activities and endeavors that propagate literary and cultural assets of India. In the past 4 decades, the foundation grew in stature and recognition as an organization that gives the best platform to writing geniuses and showcases the kaleidoscopic cultural heritage of India. The foundation dedicatedly works across more than 40 cities to connect readers to the literary creations of authors and poets and showcases talented musicians, dancers, oral storytellers, performing artists through praiseworthy literary and cultural initiatives. The foundation cherishes the noble patronage of Sri Cement Limited and the close association of distinguished associates, collaborators, partners, and Ehsas women of India in creating landmark events on the global map. It supports the UNESCO view that cultural development has the potential to be an alternative way of promoting sustainable development in poor rural communities. The foundation is a name to reckon with when it comes to promoting traditional handloom, handicraft, and cultural diversities. To further this cause, the organization has implemented sending of cross-city mementos across different cities in India. Today, we have the felicitation with Ponnarai from South India. The anthem of Prabha Ketan Foundation deserves special mention. It is ensured by the national philosophy, unity in diversity. Let's now hear the anthem. Could we play the anthem, please?
Chan pawe na manwa sajni dor naina re dor naina kilagi ta sajni
Hope you enjoyed hearing the melodious tunes of the anthem. The anthem of Prabha Khaitan Foundation has been curated by musical genius Pandit Vishwamohan Bhattji, and it reflects the true essence of the multicultural diversity of our country. The foundation has several boutique literary initiatives under its wing: an author's afternoon, the Right Circle, Kalam, Akhar, etc. Out of these stellar literary initiatives, Kitab, holds a special place as it celebrates the birth of every new book and provides a platform for authors to showcase their newest literary creations to a discerning audience. Before we start the launch, I'm honored to introduce the chief guests and authors for today's event. Our chief guest, Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhari, PVSM, AVSM, VM, ADC, the Chief of Air Staff. Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhari was commissioned into the fighter stream of the Indian Air Force on 29 December 1982. He is an alumnus of the National Defence Academy, Flying Instructor School, and Defence Services Staff College, Wellington. The Chief has a rich and varied of operational flying, having flown over 3,800 hours. During his career, he has held numerous command and staff appointments and has been an Air Force examiner on fighter and trainer aircrafts. He is a Cat A qualified flying instructor and an instrument rail instructor and examiner. The Chief has the unique distinction of being an instructor at Defence Services Staff College, Wellington, as well as Defence Services Command and Staff College, Zambia. The Air Chief Marshal has commanded a frontline fighter squadron and 2 important fighter bases. Some of his notable assignments include Assistant Chief of the Air Staff, Air Defence, Assistant Chief of the Air Staff Personnel Officers, and Deputy Chief of the Air Staff, where he spearheaded several major procurement cases of the IAF. He later was Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief of Western Air Command and Vice Chief of the Air Staff before taking over as Chief of the Air Staff on 30th September 2021. Our chief guest, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, ADC, the Chief of Naval Staff. Admiral R. Hari Kumar is an alumnus of the National Defence Academy and was commissioned into the Indian Navy on 1st Jan 1983. He has specialized in gunnery. His previous appointments include Command Gunnery Officer at Headquarters Western Naval Command, Naval Advisor to Government of Seychelles, and Training Commander INS Dronacharya. His flag appointments include Commandment of Naval War College at Goa, Flag Officer Sea Training, Flag Officer Commanding Western Fleet, Chief of Staff Western Naval Command, Controller Personnel Services, and Chief of Personnel. Prior to taking over as Chief of the Naval Staff, the Admiral was Flag Officer, Commanding-in-Chief, Western Naval Command. The flag officer had served in the Civil Military Operations Center of UN Mission in Somalia at Mogadishu from December 1992 to June of 1993. He attended the US Naval Staff Course at Naval War College, Rhode Island in 1996, Army Higher Command Course at Army War College, Mau, in 2004, and the Royal College of Defence Studies, London, in 2009. He holds a BSc from JNU, MA International Studies from King's College, London, and an MPhil in Defence and Strategic Studies from Mumbai University, and a PG Diploma in Shipping Management from Narottam Morarji Institute of Shipping, Mumbai. Our chief guest, General Manoj Pande, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, ADC, and the Chief of the Army Staff. Our General Manoj Pande is an alumnus of the National Defence Academy and was commissioned in December 1982 in the Corps of Engineers, the Bombay Sappers. The General Officer has commanded an engineer regiment during Operation Parakram in the sensitive Pallanwal sector of Jammu and Kashmir, along with the line of control. He is a graduate of Staff College, Camberley, United Kingdom, and attended the Higher Command and National Defence College courses. In his 4 decades of distinguished military career, he has held important and challenging command and staff appointments in different operational environments, which include Command of a Directorate at Army Headquarters, Chief of Staff, Headquarters Southern Command, and Director, General Discipline Ceremonial and Welfare at the Army Headquarters. He was Commander-in-Chief, Andaman and Nicobar Command from June 2020 to May 2021, and General Officer, Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Command from June 2021 to January 2022. The General Officer is the Colonel Commandant of the Bombay Sappers. He held the appointment of the Vice Chief of Army Staff before assuming the appointment of the Chief of the Army Staff on 30th April 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, it's also my pleasure to introduce our authors this evening. Shiv Aroor. Shiv Aroor is Senior Executive Editor and Anchor at India Today TV and has covered the Indian military for nearly 2 decades. He has reported from conflict zones that include Kashmir, India's northeast, Sri Lanka and Libya. For the latter, he won 2 awards for war reporting. Shiv also founded the popular and award-winning military news and analysis site Light Fist. Rahul Singh is Senior Associate Editor at Hindustan Times and has covered defense for over 2 decades. Apart from extensive and deep reporting from the world of Indian military, including several news breaks that have set the national news agenda over the years, Rahul has reported from conflict zones, including Kashmir, India's northeast, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The first story on the ongoing India-China border conflict appeared under his byline in 2020. I welcome all of you to this special occasion and I extend my heartfelt gratitude for being here. I now request Professor Pratap Anand Jha, Dean of IGNCA, to come forward and felicitate the guests on the stage with Ponnadai and a book. Thank you. Now moving on to the momentous occasion of the evening. May I request Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhari, Admiral R. Kumar, General Manoj Pande, and authors Shiv Aroor and Rahul Singh to come forward. I also request Professor Pratap Anand Jha, Dean IGNCA, and Anandita Chatterjee, Executive Trustee, Prabha Khaitan Foundation, Millie Aishwarya, Editor of the book, and Nilima Dalmia, Ehsaas Woman of Delhi, to join us all for the book launch. My heartfelt gratitude to the dignitaries. I now request our chief guests, authors, and Nilima Dalmia Adhar, Millie Aishwarya, to stay back on the stage. At this point, it's my pleasure to request Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhari to say a few words.
My colleagues, Chief of Army Staff and Chief of Naval Staff, Shiv, Aroor, Rahul, Singh, I see a lot of esteemed veterans here, officers from the Indian Armed Forces, ladies and gentlemen from the media, good evening to all of you. It's indeed a pleasure to be here on this momentous occasion. Let me begin by giving you a quote from General Douglas MacArthur. He said, "A soldier above all people prays for peace, for he and his family must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." Unquote. The Indian Armed Forces of the books, India's Most Fearless, is a testimony that numerous commotions in the name of entertainment in our society, millions are still fascinated by the real-life stories of men and women in uniform. These stories not only offer an insight into the indomitable spirit of the brave soldiers in the face of overwhelming odds, but also serve as a source of inspiration for many generations in the future. 10 riveting stories in this prequel features India's most fearless military personnel in their finest hours. From the jungles of the Northeast to the depths of the Arabian Sea, from the line of control to the line of actual control, to the unresponsive cockpit of a Sukhoi 30 flying 50 feet above the ground. This book is unputdownable with flying 50 feet above the ground. This book is unputdownable because of the daredevil action of our brave hearts to keep the reader hooked till the end. My compliments to Shiv, Aroor and Rahul Singh for a fascinating narration of a well-researched and documented stories. Special kudos to Penguin Publications for successfully publishing the third edition of this series. And I'm confident that India's most fearless journey would continue to capture the essence of life in the armed forces of India through more sequels. I would like to leave the audience with a famous quote from Sir Winston Churchill. And a quote, "Courage, grace under pressure, is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees all others." Unquote. Once again, compliments to the author for the fine work, and I look forward to the fourth edition soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ms. Millie Aishwarya, Editor-in-Chief, Singh, veterans, officers, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to all of you. I think you are very bombarded with quotes since my colleague has already given you 2 quotes. I think I should also give you a few. The words of Benjamin Franklin comes to mind. He said, "If you are not to be forgotten as soon as you are dead, you should do something worth writing about or write something worth reading about." So, in that context, firstly, I would like to compliment both Shiv, Aroor and Rahul Singh for this third book of the series, India's Most Wanted, for becoming immortal. That's exceptionally good book. The dovetailing of emotions of protagonists, colleagues, friends, family, all this make the stories wholesome and rather than just being an account of events. So I'll talk about the 2 naval stories in the book, which are very vividly written, including highlighting the challenges of seas as an operating environment, which is a facet which is not readily understood by most of us. In that sense, sea blindness is an endemic disease since people live on land and not on the sea. So there's a constant need to be aware of what the sea has to offer, what are the challenges at sea. So going into a cyclone, instead of keeping out of it, is actually completely against the SOPs or standard operating procedures in the maritime domain. Because we have something called a cyclone dodger diagram, which is taught to us, when we are initiated into the service. So whenever you come across a cyclone, you're supposed to evade and keep clear of it. But here is an occasion where you're told to go into the cyclone to effect the rescue. And at that point of time, I was the commander-in-chief at Mumbai, and I vividly remember the scene. My office, I was in the office and looking out from the window, could see nothing. The ships were just about 150 meters away, but it was pouring heavily, zero visibility, very high wind speeds, and it was a time when one had to take a call to sail the ships out because we heard there is a disaster in the making. So the nuances of ship handling, rough weather, the piloting of aircraft in really marginal weather conditions, the challenges of oaring, difficulties in diving at sea or picking up survivors, both in the daytime as well as the night, which is complicated by the weather. All this has been covered in great detail. And overall, it's a great read for readers of all ages, right from school kids to veterans. It is said that ideas come and go, but stories stay. So, stories like these are likely to have very positive impact on young minds who draw inspiration from these stories for a long time. And being contemporary, these stories are easier to relate with and sort of imbibe internally. So it gives this book a distinct advantage in terms of connecting with the youth of today. I would like to take this opportunity to request my friends in the media and other authors to encourage more such endeavors through which stories of bravery and courage stay alive in the collective memory of the citizens. And many such stories exist, they can be narrated if you do have the flair and the inclination to write about it. For example, even as the story of diving off, which is the last story in the book, at 60 meters goes to print, a new feat of diving to 220 meters depth has just been achieved just a few days ago. In fact, the divers are still undergoing decompression for another 1 week. So this shows that we constantly, as human beings, we constantly push the envelope, and that is what keeps us distinct from all other creatures. I'd like to say that we are confident that these books like this would serve in strengthening the spirit of patriotism and nationality. Additionally, more with the oceans and the blue economy for our growth and prosperity. I also feel that stories about the sea, about the people who go to sea and endure the hardships, the challenges, etc., would help in reawakening the maritime Indian, a tradition which India has.
General Manoj Pande to address the office gathering.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here this evening for the launch ceremony of the book written by Shiv and Rahul. I think the book very well encapsulates the courage, sacrifices, grit, and the valor of men and women in uniform in a very simple, lucid, and readable manner, with very relevant, important photo. And in that piece of women sailor all together. And in the context of soldiers, I think they have very rightly picked up a cross section of soldiers from different arms and services, including a soldier from the medical corps in one of the stories relating to the Galwan incident. But I think the USP of the book lies in the fact that it gives a good account of the life situations which our soldiers endure 24/7, 365 days. And it also gives very good insights into the emotions of the families, of their families. So I must compliment both the authors on outstanding work and wish them the very best in their future endeavors and look forward to reading their next book on similar subject in similar manner. Thank you and Jai Hind.
I have gratitude to you, sir, for your motivating words. I now request Nilima Dalmia Adhar, Ehsas Woman of Delhi, to start the panel discussion on the book, India's Most Fearless Three.
आजा आजा उसको बुक साइन करा अभी करा आजा बैठ
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, sirs. A very, very warm welcome to Air Chief Marshal Chaudhari, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, and General Manoj Pande. For the last 4 days, I have been hooked onto this book. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to lay my hands on volume 1 and 2, but I must admit that I was absolutely mesmerized. I wept on every page. These two exceedingly bright journalists who have covered defense for the longest time have done a great service to us by bringing this book, in fact, this series of books out, which have, the best way to say this is, for a civilian which has turned statistics into names and given stories to numbers. For that, I applaud your commendable effort, Shiv and Rahul. I've been given a short ration of time, so I have been told I have one question each for the three chiefs. So, in keeping with the sentiment of India's most fearless and their heroism, sacrifice, valor, I'm looking forward to conversing with the esteemed chiefs on this panel. May I begin with Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhari. Sir, can you tell us about the most glorious moment that defined these emotions of sacrifice, heroism, and valor in the history of your illustrious career? It'll be nice if it's a personal account of something that you yourself have experienced, sir.
You're putting me in a bind. Every day in the life of a man or woman in uniform is a challenge. Every day you face new challenges and you come out unscathed. You thank God for keeping you that way. But I think all of us have had some scary moments, and the one I can spend a few minutes on is describing my experiences of flying without
Yes, please.
Flying without a canopy
Oh, wow.
in a MiG-29 at an altitude of 12.3 kilometers at a speed of 1.9 Mach when the outside temperature was minus 53 degrees. So I had an incident where I was doing an air test on a MiG-29 and the canopy flew off. So the time of useful consciousness is the term that we all pilots relate to, and explosive decompression tells you how long you have to live. So at that altitude and speed, the time of useful consciousness was about 6 seconds. So that is the time available to take a decision. So that is when I put the aircraft in a dive. I was already at 1.9 Mach, close to 1700 kilometers per hour. So, but the idea was to get down at the earliest. So I had to get into a fetal position to avoid the wind blast. And so I brought the aircraft down.
Wow.
The end of it.
Wow, okay. Maybe, sir, one day you can commission me to write a biography on all your heroic tales.
I'm waiting for Rahul to do that.
That's wonderful. Can we we move on to Admiral R. Hari Kumar sir. There must have been innumerable moments of pride and some of regret in your life in the Navy. And sir, if you were to look back at your life and say you could change the outcome of one incident which had adversely impacted you, which one would it be, sir?
Frankly, I think there has not really been any instance to regret. Every time we go out to sea, it's a new challenge, and it's how you overcome the challenge that gives you the satisfaction, the, uh, the learning experience, and how you grow from strength to strength. I was fortunate to have commanded a ship in every rank. As a sub-lieutenant and a lieutenant, it was of course a small boat. Then it went on to command of a missile attack vessel, then a corvette, then a destroyer, and aircraft carrier. So and I always used to tell my officers that the sea is a very tough master, and you cannot take the sea lightly. So you have to be prepared at every point of time for the type of challenges that will get thrown up at you. Always anticipate, always look for what is lurking beneath, and what is it that can, uh, create something unpleasant or unexpected. So the day you feel that everything is fine and you're not thinking of what can go wrong, that is the time when some disaster or something will strike you. So there have been difficult moments, I would say, in an exercise when I was commanding the aircraft carrier. The job of an aircraft carrier is to ensure that you provide air defense for the fleet. All the other ships which are there depend upon you for air defense. They all have some amount of service to air missile systems, etc. But when you have the aircraft carrier extends the range of this air defense umbrella. So that is the main job of the aircraft carrier. So when we were so of course the opposing force is trying to locate you and attack you. So the aim is to see how far you can go out from the carrier and engage that aircraft so that he's away. And we had worked out a plan by which we wanted to sort of almost double the range which was normally practiced, and had launched the aircraft. It was almost at the limit of their endurance to carry out the mission and come back. So it was really nail-biting till the end, and when the aircraft came back and landed, they were almost, with hardly any fuel left in the tanks. So each of these missions that you undertake, there is always the risk of something going wrong. When you push the envelope, there is always the chance that something will go wrong. But prudence, ability to learn from your experience, and making the correct decisions, all this plays a important part in your career in the services.
Thank you. General Pande, sir. You inspire men to conquer fear and prepare them for that supreme sacrifice where they embrace death with patriotic fervor. And then the nation gets gripped from time to time by sentiments like expressed in this song, O Vatana mere Vatana ve, Tera mera pyar nirala tha, Qurban hua teri asmat pe, main kitna nasibon wala tha. Sir, clearly all three of you are embodiments of this undaunting passion and this fiery spirit. Can you tell us, how are you able to instill this fire so effortlessly into your men?
I'll try and contextualize it. And as I see, if I can take the spirit of your question, one way to look at it is what is it that inspires or what is it that motivates men who make the ultimate sacrifice. And I think that will be, if I speak on that, that will be good in the context of the book about the brave hearts that Shiv and Rahul have written. So I think this, as far as in the army is concerned, it is the culture and ethos of the army, in specific, more general in the military, which helps us. And an important part of this is the concept of unlimited liability. Now, this is something when you move into a battle or go into a battle-like situation, at times knowing for sure that you are embracing death. So this concept of unlimited liability is what perhaps motivates, encourages, inspires a soldier to get into that kind of a situation. So that was the bigger picture. But more importantly, I think it is also the three concepts of Naam, Namak, Nishan.
Yes.
And some of you would have heard this. I'll try and explain this. So Naam is the honor. Now each one of us, all soldiers, especially in the in keeping with this ethos of Naam Nam. The first is the honor. The honor is loyal to your nation, loyal to facing death. Now, how do you achieve it? That is, as over a number of years, when you train together, you face difficult situations, you develop that kind of confidence. If I were to perish. Now, these are some of the issues that are extremely important, and in fact is the key for a soldier while he's at.
Thank you, Jim. And now can I turn to the two most brilliant authors of today's book, India's Most Fearless, which should have been appended by India's most brilliant defense covering authors. Can we have a hand for them, please? My first takeaway from your book, I can only express in a poem which I learnt in my childhood by Lord Byron, which says, "O God, it is a fearful thing to see the human soul take wing. In any shape, in any mood, I've seen it rushing forth in blood. I've seen it on the breaking ocean, strive with a swollen convulsive motion. I've seen the sick and ghastly bed of sin delirious, with its dread, but these were horrors, this is woe, unmixed with such, but sure and slow." Ladies and gentlemen, I have witnessed blood-curdling scenes of the human soul taking wing in the pages of this heart-wrenching book by Rahul and Shiv that we have launched today. And before we begin, I must caution you that this book is not for the faint-hearted. Yet, it is a book that every proud Indian needs to read again and again and rekindle the pride we feel for our men in uniform, led by leaders such as these, who are fighting death each day just so we can be alive. And in that, can we have them around for that memory, please? Your unput-downable account, where you have actually transported the reader right into the heart of the battlefield, has left me numb. And these chilling of impassioned young men and women who are impervious to fear and romance death. I have lived on these pages in real time, and I have wept. I understand that we have here in the audience today some of the families of the martyrs who have been mentioned in this book. So can we begin by acknowledging them, Shiv and Rahul?
Absolutely. I think it's calling it an honor is inadequate because to have them in our presence, Rahul and I, when we wrote our first book, in the acknowledgements, we'd actually written that the heroes and their families walk among us. The reason we said that line is because it was an effort to demonstrate that people in the armed forces are people just like us. They are from the same society as us, and yet they are thrust into these situations which compel them to do things that are fearless and brave, are difficult for us on the other side, not in uniform, to fully fathom. So I'd like to begin by just telling all of us here some of the families of those we've written about happen to be here. I'd like you to, if possible, give them a standing ovation. I'm going to take their names. Mandeep Ji is the brother of Lance Nayak Sandeep Singh of 4 Para Special Forces. Mandeep is the elder brother of Lance Nayak Sandeep Singh of the 4 Para Special Forces, a commando who made the supreme sacrifice in an operation a few years ago in the Tangdhar sector. His story is in our new book. Absolutely incredible and difficult to believe bravery of the time that he was there. We also have with us Prakash Ji. He is an army veteran himself, and he happens to be the brother of Galwan hero Nayak Deepak Singh. Nayak Deepak Singh was awarded with a posthumous Veer Chakra. His brother Nayak Deepak Singh was from the Army Medical Corps, and he was a combat medic saving the lives of soldiers on both sides. So that's another account in our book, which is... We also have with us Colonel and Mrs. K.P. Singh. They are the parents. Please raise your hands so people can see you. They are the parents of Group Captain Varun Singh. If you remember, he was the sole survivor of the tragic helicopter crash in which General Bipin Rawat perished, only to lose his life a week later. He was one of the best fighter pilots in the Indian Air Force. And in our book, we detail the story for which he won the Shaurya Chakra a few months before his tragic demise. Colonel and Mrs. K.P. Singh have come from Bhopal for this. And I also wanted to just tell, not from the current book, but from the last book, Major Mohit Sharma Ashok Chakra of 1 Para Special Forces, who gave his life in an operation that most people are unable to come to terms with because it is so... bravery of that kind is difficult to understand. His parents are here. They live on the outskirts of Delhi. They're here as well. So I just wanted to say that in the process of writing these books, most of the stories we've written involve heroes who are sadly no longer among us. So the families you see here are the people who've been able to tell the stories. And one of the things, and this is something all of us want to understand from the chiefs also at some point, which is that these are families that just completely recede into the background, after the media hoopla sort of moves off. There are cameras one day, there's a lot of coverage one day, and then it moves away. And these families just recede into the background, never wanting any recognition, never, demanding any attention of any kind, and nobody ever hears of them again. And that's actually one of the reasons, apart from these being amazing stories that their loved ones have been involved in, one of the reasons we wrote this book is also because I think writing about these people gives them a sense of immortality. And that's actually something that Mohit's mother had told us. When you write about someone, they do live forever. So, Mandeep ji, Colonel KP Singh, Mrs. Singh, Prakash ji, and the parents of Major Mohit Sharma, thank you very much. The nation owes you, and our gratefulness will never stop. Thank you. Thank you. I think that answered your question, Nilima. But with your permission, I just wanted to also tell, since we were talking about careers spent defending something and, living a day-to-day life that's dangerous. I just also wanted to tell all of our audience here that the three chiefs happen to be course mates from the National Defense Academy. So, that may be normal for them, but, for civilians, it's incredible, which means from their cadet days until all three of them becoming chiefs of their respective, armed services, they've literally given their entire lives, to the armed forces. So, a huge round of applause for the chiefs. Most of us will never be able to fully sort of grasp the complexity and enormity of the job that they have on a daily basis. So I have to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for even having the time to take out to come here today. So very, very grateful. Thank you, sir.
I just want to add to that element. So a lot of people are now saying that we've managed to pull off, we were talking about it backstage, we've managed to pull off a publishing coup of sorts by getting the three chiefs here for the launch of a third book, India's Most Fearless 3.
Okay, let's believe the coup ends here. We plunge straight into the book, Rahul and Shiv, and I refer to page 86, where you have quoted Major Abhishek motivating his men after losing 5 in a savage, bone-chilling skirmish. He says, "Nobody is a Rambo. There is a human inside every commando." And all the fiery Jawans, sar par bandh ke kafan, rise again and again and again to resume their mission, a cold-blooded, face-to-face, hand-to-hand combat. Please tell us about that.
This is the story she's talking about is the Keren sector Operation Randoli Behek, which took place just at the beginning of the COVID-19 lockdown in 2020. So this is when a group of Pakistani terrorists had infiltrated, and she's just quoted a person called Major Abhishek, so from the 4 Para Special Forces, the same unit that Mandeep's brother is from, where it was an operation which was picture perfect. Everything was going absolutely smoothly. But if you get a chance to read the book, you'll understand that there was one small, unforeseeable mishap in the terrain, as a result of which the tables completely turned, and 5 of those special forces men were lost in that firefight. It was one of the biggest losses as far as the special forces is concerned, but it was not their fault. It was something they could not have planned for. It was, you read about it when you know. But going to the heart of what she's just quoted is, you can imagine a unit, a really tightly knit unit like a special forces unit in the army, where they spend all their days and nights and everything together. They're even more tightly knit than regular units. Losing 5 men in a matter of a few minutes, and the next day you wake up and those 5 men are no longer there. And Major Abhishek, who was who was the person we spoke to and who was part of that, the planning and that operation, he couldn't go for their funerals. He couldn't, he who was there, who was their brother, who was part of the operation, who saw their bodies, he could not go for any of their funerals simply because there is no downtime in the forge. He didn't have the luxury of taking leave and going and attending their funerals and, visiting their parents. And he just, his only role after their bodies came back was to make sure that the men's morale stayed high and that they were absolutely ready, if necessary, to roll out on a mission later that day. No luxury of grief, no luxury of remorse and thinking about things. It's incredible. He actually says the way we fight back, the way we handle grief, is to train and train and train and train more in such a way that something like this is never ever going to happen again in our unit. So that's how they handle grief in the armed forces. It's incredible.
What comes out of here, which kind of sort of stunned me, I would say, is that they're talking of a face-to-face, hand-to-hand combat. Now, this is something which is inconceivable as a civilian in today's day and age, where warfare is something that you think of highly sophisticated weaponry and, bombs and remote control, and Trump has a button he can press and the whole world will be destroyed. We grew up, or we believe those days. What are you talking about when you're saying hand-to-hand and face-to-face combat, Rahul?
So, Nirina, combat, of course, has different shades. What we are talking about and what is romanticized in movies is wars and wartime heroes. So, the heroes we've spoken about, we've written about, are all peacetime heroes. So, when we started writing this book, the whole idea was when we talk of a new India, we should talk of a new crop of heroes as well. Kids born out 2000, 2001, 2002, a lot of, including my own. We felt that there was a lack of understanding of military culture, military history. So that is the reason we chose these heroes. And now, since we are not at war, but even as we speak, General Pande's men, soldiers are leading, I think, hundreds of operations on a daily basis across Northeast, across Jammu and Kashmir. You have people, you have guys from the other side trying to sneak in to create trouble in our border states. So, not many times those situations, that terrain, you end up in a hand-to-hand combat kind of a situation, and that's where all your training comes in. And there have been many such cases where soldiers have, not after engaging in a gun battle, they have come into a hand-to-hand kind of a situation. So it keeps happening. It's not a lot of these stories don't come to light because there are only finite number of stories we can write. To be sure, the armed forces, while we look at those stories as totally absolutely hair-raising stories, believe me, if you ask any of the chiefs, the esteemed chiefs over here, they'll tell you this is what we do every day. I mean, what's so unique about it? So that's the kind of situation we are talking about.
Yes, but the great deed you have done is you've bridged the gap between the civilian ignorance and the military honor. So, which is a great service, and I commend you, and I can't thank you enough for it. Can I ask you one question, because I still haven't been able to grapple with it and come to terms with it. Every single incident is numbing and chilling. So to each one of you, I want to ask, which is the most numbing and chilling incident in your entire work in this space, either in the book or in the other books or something you haven't written about? Share it with us today, both of you.
So, India's Most Fearless series has been a roller coaster. It has changed Shiv and me as persons, the way we look at things, the way we deal with problems, the way we deal with situations. We're talking about kids who are just 20, 21, and they're doing things which most of us will not do in our lifetimes. But while they are trained to do that, and they are in an environment where they're expected to do that, what really astounds me is the stoicism and fortitude of their families. All of you have just met and seen all of them. I'll just give you a very simple example. This was the 15th of, and we keep in touch with the families of our heroes. We wish them on their birthdays, anniversaries. I remember, Colonel KP sir will remember, I spoke to him on the 15th of December, the first anniversary of, and we were on a video call, and I think so. You were coming down from Lucknow, and he was so happy, and I almost broke down. I said, this is a man who's his son's first anniversary, and look at the kind of, and he's talking about, we're doing this in Varun's memory, we're doing that, and the way they would, the way they so fondly talk about it. So it's then what's actually bread in the bones shows in the flesh. So perhaps they were, to some extent, it's also those sanskars they were born with, which kind of allowed them to leave other people behind and do things which most of us can never imagine. I'll give you a simple example again. Sushila ma'am and Rajendra sir, Major Mohit Sharma's parents, we very frequently meet. They're very kind, they invite us to their houses, we go there, we have a nice time together. And I want to share that Mohit's story, sir, is being made into a film. It's called Liftikar, it's being made by a leading film producer. The script is done, goes into shooting mode very soon. And I remember when we met Sushila ji for the first time, we'd taken a copy of the book, and that image is still etched in my mind. She just held the book, she opened the page, it was India's Most Fearless 2, and the first chapter, the flagship chapter was Mohit Sharma. And she just kissed the photo and she broke down. She says, "Thanks for writing about my son, but believe me, I'll never be able to read his story." So that is the kind of emotions, and,
That's really, really touching. I need a minute. You should.
Very briefly, and I've said this quite often actually, a question that I've asked most heroes or their comrades in service about how were you able to do something so brave? Or how do you think this person was able to do something so brave? And the incredible thing is that I've always got the same answer from heroes in the Navy, Air Force, Army, officers, sailors, air warriors, soldiers. They don't know each other, they haven't discussed the answer, but they all have exactly the same answer. And that actually speaks to me. And the answer is, they say, I happened to be in that situation at that time. Anyone with my training and the ethos of the Indian Armed Forces would do exactly the same thing. And and these are people who've won, who've received Ashok Chakras and Shaurya Chakras, incredibly brave people. And their first instinct is humility. And this is not about me, this is about what I've been given and what my training is about and what my seniors have given me and what the leadership of the Army or the Navy or the Air Force has given me in terms of my ethos, that I was able to do this. It has nothing to do with me, myself. And they all had that exact same answer. Not a single person said, oh, it's because I'm great, or oh, it's because of this or that. It's always because of some other reason.
You still didn't tell me which was the most numbing incident.
I am constantly asked by readers, viewers all over especially on social media. We've written now, I think we've written 38 stories, 3 books with 38 stories with I think a total of 60 heroes across these chapters. And I'm constantly asked, which was the most numbing, which was your favorite? Honestly, that's like being asked to choose between your children. You can't do that. These are all special stories. They're all numbing stories. Even the stories that have a happy ending, they are still very, very emotionally emotionally sort of straining. And Rahul and I, both of us are civilians, and I can tell you that after writing each chapter, we used to take like a few weeks of a break, just to sort of
Debrief.
breathe and get back into our senses, because in the writing of that chapter, we just spent weeks and weeks with families, with the officers, with the units, and you're immersed in that world, and it's a world that is completely alien to people who are not in uniform. And to get out of that world and to sort of imagine that, oh my God, we don't have to face that stuff on a daily basis is a bit of a process. So yeah.
Yes, yes. You've actually touched upon the question that I was going to put to Millie. So Millie, who's the most important cog in this wheel, without whom this book would not have seen the light of day. In fact, the series wouldn't have seen the light of the day. Millie, you have edited this soul-stirring book that has resurrected and immortalized the lives of so many martyred heroes of the armed forces. Talk to us about how these heart-wrenching traits of great valor and sacrifice impacted you. And after reading them, did you need a session of debriefing to be able to come to terms with it? I do.
No, absolutely. I think, like Shiv and Rahul mentioned, it is not easy to write these books because these books involve a lot of research. They take a lot of time. They need the families, their course mates, the people who are there on ground with them to understand the situation and the stories well. So the books, take research and time and a lot of effort. Um, and then, that's why they are so special. They actually, like when you read these, they're very visual stories. And you feel you're there, you are in the middle of the action and you actually can sort of feel all the emotions, what they're going through, what they're thinking. One thing which I wanted to say is that, when you see about some of these incidents or events on TV, there are numbers and there are some details, but you don't actually know what happened. And that is what I think, India's Most Fearless has really changed. Rahul and Shiv have told the actual story of what exactly happened, the conditions, the decisions that these brave soldiers had to take on the spur of the moment most of the time, unexpected twists and turns, and it's really real, and that is why it's doing very well on the OTT or the film platforms as well. In terms of editing, it is difficult. I'm trying hard not to sort of get emotional now as well because there are families of heroes here. And I did have to take a break. The first story, of the book is of the Galwan clash, and it's a long story, more than 10,000 words. And when you read it, and this is a soldier from the medical corps, and the kind of bravery and selflessness with which he continued to serve, Indians and Chinese soldiers after getting injured. It's mind-boggling. It's really chilling. It really it does something to you, and that is why I really recommend the book to every Indian. I think every Indian must read these books. It will not only move you. I think it will change you to some degree. I think younger people have to read this book, and I'm very grateful to all the three service chiefs who are here to launch the book, and your support is so vital for us, and it's a big encouragement for us at Penguin to continue publishing these books for the readers.
So, unfortunately, we're short of time, so we won't be able to take the question answers from all of us guests here today. We move on to the next part of the program, which is unveiling of the three books, earlier books.
We are actually now creating a very special box set, which will have all the three India Most Fearless books, 1, 2, and 3. So you don't have to search for one or the other. You can get all three in one box, and we're going to launch the cover of the box set.
Thank you. I think that insightful panel discussion leaves us all with a sense of debt towards our chief guests for their selfless duty towards our nation, and to our authors for bringing forth the stories of these unsung heroes to the forefront for generations to come to read and treasure. May I now request Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhari, Admiral R. Kumar, and General Manoj Pande to unveil the box of the India's Most Fearless 3.
Go back.
that box is going to help us unbox a lot of these stories. I now call upon Anandita Chatterjee, Executive Trustee, Prabha Khaitan Foundation, to deliver the formal vote of thanks.
It was a very engaging, thought-provoking and emotionally charged discussion around the book, India's Most Fearless Three. It is indeed instills a deep sense of respect and gratitude to the brave hearts of Indian defense and feeling of patriotism. It gives us immense pleasure, joy and pride to have among us the honorable chiefs of the Indian Army, Air Chief Marshal B.R. Chaudhari sir, Admiral R. Kumar sir, Chief of the Naval Staff, and General Manoj Pande sir, Chief of Army Staff, for accepting the invitation to grace the occasion as chief guests, taking out time from precious work schedule. Thank you, sir. We are grateful to them for their words of wisdom, which come from very long personal experience. Our heartfelt thanks go to the two authors, Shiv, Aroor and Rahul Singh, for penning such an important work of military narratives around the unimaginable courage and sacrifice of the Indian Army. They say, truth is stranger than fiction. This book tells the true incidents of the fearless army men who go beyond the call of duty to save the difficult corners of the motherland and to extend help to the civilian people in difficult situations caused by the nature's frenzy and other calamities. The extraordinary heroic contribution of Indian Army is indeed inspiring for all of us and especially the youth of this country. We thank the editor of the book, Mili Aishwarya, and Penguin Books for painstakingly putting this work within 3 covers and handing it over to the readers. I also thank Neelima Dalmia, SR's Women of Delhi, for moderating and the very intriguing session and answers session. We thank the Honorable President of IGNCA, Shri Ram Bahadur Rai ji, and our Member Secretary, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi ji, for always encouraging us and making room for us to organize such events which add values to our lives. Last but not the least, I thank the beautiful audience for making it to the event and for participating in the discussion. Kudos to you. Thank you.
Before we wind up, I would just request the Aroor family who's come down from Bangalore for this launch, Shiv's parents, Tavli's parents, my parents, Tel Mahavir and his wife, my sister, my niece, and my wife's parents, my in-laws. Her and DVC. Please.
I would also like to request everyone to stand up for the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध